The people are both the masters of both the Congress and the courts. Not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who would pervert it. Where the people fear the government, you have tyranny. And where the government fears the people, you have liberty. Hello everyone. Thanks for tuning in. My name's Daniel Hapney, and this is The Real Story. Tonight, once again, we got a little bit of news, we got a new topic. We're going to bring up that shadow. Yeah, that thing in the shadow, the thing you don't see that much, or at least the things that the media doesn't tell you that much. That's why we're using this media to reach you. So maybe you'll think, and then maybe you'll reason, and then maybe you'll act. So what we have for you tonight is a couple things. I've got some, once again, news. What's been happening in the news? What's the news you should know about? Interesting thing, right before and after the election, the highest gun sales were recorded in the U.S. People were concerned that maybe Obama might be going after his guns, or their guns, or someone's guns, their Second Amendment right to keep and bear. Well, it turns out they were probably right and justified in protecting and acquiring more firearms. And the reason I say that is, boy, I've been listening to Rahm Emanuel, that White House chief of staff, you know, the guy behind the president thing, and hey, he's been a big gun grabber, hasn't he? And he's a dual citizen, not even an American. Boy, I wonder how that goes. So him and Michael Chertoff, the Homeland Security guy, another not American dual citizen, where do their loyalties lie? But that's another thought. Let's go in with, we'll start off with, I always like to do the economic thing when we start. As you all know, we've got a new stimulus bill coming, or, you know, they're putting forth, even though, you know, the last, what, 3 or 4, let's see, we bailed out Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. We bailed out AIG, I remember that. We bailed out the car companies. Oh yeah, and the banksters. Yeah, we bailed out, quote, I like to think, rip-off. You know, they ripped us off and gave money to the banksters. And they, of course, gave themselves bonuses, had parties, all that good things, you know, went out and bought big planes. It turns out, I guess they've been buying prostitutes too, but that's a whole nother story. It's good to know where your money goes, huh? Yeah. And let's think about it. Have you viewers ever known a criminal to get into government? What about that duopoly, that Republican-Democrat thing? Is there any chance that the people behind them could be running both of them? An analogy I like when I think of the shadow stuff, when I say shadow, could there be a shadow government? Yeah, when I think of that shadow stuff, people behind the screens, you know, they're behind the curtains, you know, they're pulling the strings, they're pulling the levers of power. I always like this analogy. When you go to a fast food restaurant, and for some reason they make your food wrong, and you can't get satisfaction with the person at the window or the counter, you ask for the manager, right? That's how I think about the presidents and stuff, and a lot of the people that we see that are in the news. They're like that, you know, they're above the counter person. Yeah, they're the manager. How often when you go to those institutions, those restaurants or whatever, do you get to see the franchise owner, let alone the corporate, you know, franchise controller? You probably don't even know their name. That's how I think of the people behind the people the media shows us. So with that, tonight we're going to do a little bit, we're going to delve into that, you know, kind of shadow government thought and introduce you to what I've been classifying as the New World Order, which is a lot like the Old World Order. That's where they were kings and queens and the rest of the people were just serfs, you know? And they used armies and they had, what, barons and baronesses and all this to keep those serfs surfing, right? So, what we have tonight, some news, you know, a little bit about what's behind the scenes. We'll probably do a couple shows on it. But for you, some interesting stuff. This one I got this week and I liked, and it was Thomas Jefferson, and he was, you know, talking about the Federal Reserve. Remember previous shows? There's a private banking cartel here in the United States that, you know, makes and controls our currency. Not part of our government. Yeah, these private bankers. And that's right, they gave themselves raises and more money, huh? And they don't have to pay taxes. But you do. I'll go off on a tangent here for you. And that is, you notice that all those Obama people, those cabinet folks, gosh, I guess Daschle didn't like paying taxes. That Kennedy gal, did she like paying taxes? Richardson had to go back to Arizona or whatever because he was a crook. Baglievich, that's where Rahm Emanuel and, you know, and Obama came from, the Illinois thing. Yeah, they had stuff going on. But this taxes thing, yeah, the Federal Reserve, that private banking cartel, they don't have to pay taxes, yet you do. They must love it. So anyhow, here's where we go with it. This is Thomas Jefferson once again, and Thomas Edison. Let's get my Thomases correct. He writes this. He says, it is absurd to say that our country can issue, in this case, $30 million in bonds and not $30 million in currency. Think about it. That's what happens nowadays. We borrow from a private banking cartel, and then we issue bonds, and we exchange those bonds, those promissory notes, like your mortgage, okay, that says, I'll pay back with interest. We give that to that private banking cartel, and they issue us currency. Why don't we just issue the currency ourselves? He goes on, and he says, both are promises to pay, but one promise fattens the usurer. And when I say that, remember usury? Yeah, for you people that read the Torah, for the people out there that read the Bible, and you Quran readers, they mentioned usury, didn't they? So anyway, one fattens the usurer, and the other helps the people. Why do we do this private banking cartel thing when we could just issue the currency directly? If the currency, issued by the government were no good, once again, if they were issuing bad currency, then the bonds they issued wouldn't be any good either. So here's a guy who invented the light bulb, they tell us, Thomas Edison, and what he was saying is, why do we go and borrow money when we could make money? That's a thought, huh? I guess those bankers want to get their interest. You know what's going to come back into the lexicon, into the language, and that is bankster. It's a combination of banker and gangster. And we put them together on this show, The Real Story. Let us all say the word together, bankster, because that's, I think, what you're facing out there. All right, some more news because, gee, what do those people that have power do? They like to, they got money, so they want more power. The reality of FEMA camps and martial law. Well, gee, have you noticed that we now have Homeland Security? Heil Hitler, Was ist los? I like to tell people, when they say, where are your papers? I bring mine, I recommend the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, Every time they ask you, I would like to see your ID. Where are your papers? Yeah, show them your papers. So, the thought of, those camps. HR 465, I think it is. And what are we doing? We're going to build 6 1 million man camps in, what? Old military bases. Well, viewers, have you been invited to the camp? Will you be bused to the camp? They're going to put you on a train to the camp. How are you getting to the camp? And why is Dick Cheney saying, hey, there's going to be some horrific thing happen, that there'll be some nuclear, biological, chemical attack in the future? What are these people planning? A thought for you. They're building these big FEMA camps. This is after Kellogg Brown and Root, back in 2002, received $385 million of your dollars once again. They're not mine, they're yours. And what did they do? They built camps also. Detainment camps. So you got to ask yourself, what are these people planning? Who are they planning to detain? And is every one of your neighbors Al-Qaeda? Is that what it is? Have we changed as a society? What happened? Is it just me? Or do you notice the change also? So I just want to remind you that once again in your House of Representatives, they're planning on what? They're planning on detaining or at least housing, millions of people in the future. What do they know? What is this all about? Show your papers, take your shoes off at the airport, show your ID 5 times. Whole new what? The Army's going to be deploying Army on the streets of the U.S.? Don't believe me. Read the Army Times, September 8, 2008. You can read. Yeah. Well, who is Northcom, and why is it that we need to deploy the United States Army on the troops, on American soil? Makes you wonder. All right, so anyway, we're going to get right into the shadow end of it. Here's what we have for you. Many times in history, people have tried to bring about, or at least what is in their minds listed as, a new world order. I remember it was Hitler who said, he wanted a new world order. And the interesting thing is, as we see these globalists, and especially when there are our Obamas, and there are representatives like our Kerrys and our Kennedys, and our Barney Franks, and all the things they're doing is, it's this global thing, global warming, global governance, the UN thing, and you say, well, gee, all that sounds good. Isn't that good? It sounds good. Yeah, it's a good thing. Well, you got to remember, What happens when you get a crook and he's at the top of the pyramid?